Weights and Downer. You or someone you know has lost the ability to earn a living because someone put the company interests before their well-being. In times like these, there's one firm who has handled hundreds of catastrophic and lost earning cases. Before you settle fast with a company's attorney, give Weights and Downer a call. 985-876-0870. Weights and Downer. Let us fight for your rights.
All right, welcome back to Bayou Time. I'm Martin Falls. Very big news coming out of Terrebonne Parish. And let me introduce two members of the District Attorney's Office here in Terrebonne Parish. We have Dennis Alfred, the Chief of Staff over there. Dennis, good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you, Martin.
All right, we have Miss Patty Floyd, the prosecutor for the Terrebonne Parish District Attorney's Office. Patty, good to see you also.
Good to be here. Thanks.
Some big news, and talking with the District Attorney, Joe Waits, this morning. And Dennis, I talked with you about this last week. We don't hear about these cases often, but they're so very important that we get them under control. And this is one of those horrific cases that I know we wanted to get y'all on to talk about because it's so important. So Dennis, this was a case brought before. How long ago before y'all got this case?
So it was relatively quick. I think it was maybe a year and a half prior to the trial date when the incident was reported. Unfortunately, this was a situation to where it had been a long-standing abuse of a minor child involving a rape and other sexual acts. To the credit of the police that investigated this, they managed to quickly move on the investigation, get it over to our office, and we were able to prosecute it relatively quickly, which is something a little bit unusual. A lot of times these things take some time, but in this situation, the process moved along very, very quickly. I think Patty has a lot to say about that because she's the one who prosecuted it.
Yeah, when I asked Ms. Floyd, when you get a case like this, of course, I guess the quicker you could get it, the safer it is for the young lady involved. But you've been with the DA's office and you've been in the court system for quite some time. How shocking was this case?
Sadly, in Terrebonne Parish, we've had quite a few first-degree rapes, and this one involved the defendant having sex with his own daughter. A little bit shocking that it took place for such a long time, and a little disheartening because this went from the time the child was 6 years old until it was reported when she was 14 years old. And the father was able to block the biological mother who had lost custody when the child was very small, probably 4 or 5 years old, about a year before the father started his sexual activity with her. So it's disheartening that this child went through this for so long because of the acts of the father, not only in the sexual abuse, but in keeping her from people who could report it for her, because obviously a little child has a difficult time doing that.
Right. And when you're going through this, there's a lot of different parts, spokes to the wheel, let's say, that have to come together before you can move forward. Takes investigators, takes a lot of different things. How well was all that coming together for you all?
Amazingly, this case was put together really well. Detective Lawrence Arsenault, who was assisted by Andrew Watson from Houma Police Department. Lawrence Arsenault is very experienced, and he jumped on this. It took the day he got the case, he went to Chalmette to speak to the biological mother who was the reporter. He came back to Houma to investigate the defendant. His actions helped get this child out of the home the same day that it was reported. So she had gone for years and years. And when she finally got the courage to tell her biological mother, who she was estranged from, and it took a leap of faith for her because she really didn't know her since she had been apart from her mother since she was probably 5 years old. And she made that leap of faith, and the mother reported to HPD, and Detective Arsenault took the bull by the horns, and that same day that child was safe, and she was away from the perpetrator. So, and in this case too, we did have a confession from the defendant, which allowed us to move much more quickly in this case. And in our sex cases, when we have a youth victim, we try to get those, if the case is together, as quickly as we can because of the youth of them. So she was 14 when she reported, 15 by the time the case got to trial. And so she's able now to try to move on with her life.
Yeah, and I imagine it's pretty tough. What courtroom was this in?
This was in Judge Bethencourt's court, and he was the sentencing judge, and he was the presiding judge. And when he sentenced the case was tried in May 6th through the 8th, I believe, and then we had post-trial motions that were heard on September the 18th of this year, and then sentencing was right after that. And in these cases, the victims are allowed, if they would like to give a statement and address the court, address the courtroom. And in this case, this 15-year-old victim came and she gave a statement before the court, which took an unbelievable amount of bravery. The defendant was in the courtroom. So she faced him, she faced the judge, and there was an audience in the courtroom. But this child was so brave. She talked about, you know, how upsetting it was and how she had younger siblings, and she felt like she had to go through with it to help protect her younger siblings. And she actually forgave her father, but she said that, she forgave him for what he did. She won't forget it, but she's strong enough, and it made her a stronger person. And she said, despite everything that he did to her, and she was addressing it to him, she's going to make something out of herself. And I fully believe that this is a strong young lady, and it moves some people in the courtroom to tears.
Yeah, real quick, who was the father? And let's give a little information for the public.
The defendant was John Carbajal, and he was 33 years old at the time that this went to trial. So he would have been, almost 30, I believe, when the sexual abuse started. He had remarried, and the child lived in the home with a stepmother and some younger siblings. And she, like a lot of sexual abuse victims, she was very protective of her younger siblings in the home.
Yeah. And Dennis, real quick, 50 seconds left. This gives some courage to people out there who may want to come forward and tell their own story.
Absolutely. It's a case that we took seriously, just like any report of these types of sexual abuses, and we'll prosecute it to the fullest. We took the ultimate charge. The defendant is going to serve life as a result of his actions in this case.
Plus 20
and we intend
consecutive.
plus 20 years on the additional charge. And as it pertains to any case that comes to the office such as this, we will prosecute it to the fullest and try and get the maximum result.
All right. Once again, Dennis Elford, Patty Floyd, thanks to Joe Waits and the district attorney. Also, and if you have information on anything like this, come forward. We'll take a break. We'll be right back here on Bayou Time. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Alford and Associates for all of your insurance needs. CIS, Cardiovascular Institute of the South, the highest quality cardiovascular care available. Barker Honda, the Barker family tradition of quality.